Hi, this is Ishio, and welcome back to Echo. We're still on Leo's route, but we've not seen him for a while because we kinda got kidnapped by some scary people, and we just escaped, and Kudzu helped us on our way. So we've just left, and now I don't know where we're gonna go next. We're gonna try and run away. I don't remember much about the walk back to Kudzu's house, aside from the stilted fashes of dirt and sagebrush. It's dark and hot, and my shirt immediately starts to stick to my sweaty fur. My legs are so numb that I don't even know if I'm moving them right. Kudzu has to hold on to me the entire way so I don't fall over. Crickets chirp all around us, but every few minutes I hear shouting and screams in the distance. I try to look over my shoulder to see if Brian's coming after us, but Kudzu grunts and tells me to keep watching my steps. Some circulation has returned to my legs, and I'm unable to at least match Kudzu's stride over the uneven dirt road. Still, it feels like 1,000 needles are stabbing up my feet and legs in waves with every step I take. I'm genuinely afraid that I'm going to wake up any second and find myself still stuck in Brian's trailer. None of this seems real. I'm still watching my feet in the ground, so I don't notice Kudzu's house until I almost kick the bottom step to his rusty trailer. Just the sight of a trailer is sending chills up my spine, even though Brian's trailer looks very different compared to Kudzu's. We stand in front of his door for a while, as the raccoon fishes through his pockets for his keys. It's made extra difficult with me hanging on him. I can stand on my own if you... Got it. Kudzu whips out a small gold-coloured key before sliding it into the lock. Once we're inside, Kudzu immediately kicks the door closed behind us before reaching back to turn the deadlock. The inside of Kudzu's trailer is the opposite of its exterior. It's brightly lit and tidy, nothing like Brian's place. It's a little cramped, as any trailer would be, but the furniture is arranged neatly and the kitchen is spotless. Everything looks way newer than the trailer is on the outside. I imagine the raccoon did a lot of work to get it to look like this. Kudzu quickly guides me to a small love seat and makes as if to lay me down. I put a hand against his chest, feeling my stomach turn. Wait, I think I'd rather sit up. Do you need anything? Food? Or drink? Kudzu's looking into my eyes with his dark browns, the brows above them furrowed in deep concern. I nod slowly so as not to upset my stomach again. Water, please. Sure. Kudzu quickly hurries off to the kitchen and I slowly lean into the cushions behind me. I'm not tired at all, but I feel numb, and not just physically. My arms throb and it feels like the leather straps are still bound around my wrists. It even feels like they're being pulled by an invisible force. Like if I relaxed, my arms would float back up into that fixed position. I shudder, hugging my body, and then look around, trying to find something else to focus on. A grouping of 3 picture frames on a small side table next to the love seat catches my attention. From where I'm sitting, I can see Kudzu in one of them, beaming at the camera. It's actually kind of weird seeing him smiling like that. There's an arm around his neck, and I start to lean over a bit to see who it is. Here. Kudzu appears in front of me again, holding out a glass of water. I straighten back up against the cushions. Once I take the glass, he holds out his other hand with 2 white pills resting in the black pad of his palm. Here's some pills if you're in pain. I definitely am, so I take it and the glass without a word and swallow it down. For a second my stomach sours, and I feel like it's going to come back up, but only for a second. Kudzu steps back and watches me. Even though his face maintains its stoic, almost glare, I see his hands fidgeting together in front of his stomach. I nod weakly at a recliner across from me. You wanna sit or something? Kudzu seems to consider, and then walks over to the recliner. He sits on the very edge of the cushion, back rigid, continuing to stare at me. I take another sip of water, less this time, so as not to upset my stomach. It looks like he wants to say something, but keeps silent, lips pressed together. Kudzu watches me the whole time. What's wrong? Kudzu opens his mouth and closes it, thinking before opening it again. You okay? Yes, sort of. I mean, I'm not gonna die, I think. I'm not really sure if I'm completely okay. Everything still feels numb. Yeah, that was horrible. All of the last episode was horrific situation. My thoughts feel sluggish too, and something that's been nagging at the back of my mind since I got here suddenly bubbles up to the surface. Did you call the police? I absent-mindedly reach for my phone in my pocket, but it's not there. I have no idea where it is at this point. Was it still at Leo's house? There's a tight look of consternation on Kudzu's face. The phones aren't working. Even my landline isn't working. My foggy brain tries to process this. What? Why? Did the phone lines break or something? Kudzu shakes his head. I don't know. Should we walk to my car or something and drive to Peyton? I look back out the pitch black window. We need to tell someone right now. Janice and Leo's still out there. There's no way Janice hasn't been found by now. There should be police everywhere. Where are the cops? I turn back to Kudzu, feeling sick again. Kudzu doesn't say anything, and he's got a strange look on his face, like he's trying to figure out how to tell me something. And finally he stands up. I'll figure something out. Listen, I think you need to get some rest. I frown. But we need to get someone out here. What if Brian comes after me? I shrink in on myself at the thought, feeling goosebumps erupt over my arms. Kudzu steps closer to me and awkwardly reaches out to put a hand on my shoulder. You'll be fine. Do you want to lay down in my bed? I don't say anything, my head still trying to catch up. It's a waterbed, Kudzu adds, as if that makes the offer more tempting. He thinks, you hungry? I've got muffins. Might help you get to sleep. I shake my head. What? No, I want to get the fuck out of here. A loud pop makes me jump and I stand up. I'm not sure what I'm about to do, but Kudzu reaches out gently to hold on to me before pulling me away from the window. Faintly, I can hear some shouting outside, but it's far away. What was that? Is someone shooting? I look at Kudzu, starting to feel desperate. He puts an arm around me, at the same time moving toward the end of the trailer where a big bed is tucked in. Don't know. A lot of things are happening right now, so I think we should stay here to be safe, okay? For now at least. I hold on to the raccoon, unsure of what to do. Listen. He holds me by both arms and I look back at him. You gotta trust me that we can't leave right now. I'll explain it all after you've rested for a bit. He pauses. I can tell you're not really here right now. Here right now? You'll feel better once you wake up, alright? The thought of laying down is tempting, despite feeling like I'm going insane. If I sleep, I don't have to think, just blank my mind and rest. My head is buzzing, and I feel like laying down might straighten things out. Kudzu gently but firmly forces me to sit down on the bed. Despite his slender build, I can feel the strength in his lean muscles. What about Brian and Duke? Kudzu slowly pushes me back down onto the bed, the water underneath the surface sloshing faintly. I haven't been on an actual waterbed for years. Cole used to have one. Where is Cole? Where's everyone? I want to go back to the motel and find my friends again, but Kudzu seems adamant on keeping me here. I got Leo's gun. I saw it on the ground when I went to check on you guys. He must be able to tell from the look on my face that I'm not at ease because he reaches out again to rest a hand on my chest. It's still awkward, but it's comforting at least. I'll be here all night, nothing's gonna happen. That does make me feel a lot better, at least well enough to maybe get some sleep. Okay. I stare at the ceiling as I lay back. I still feel numb, but in a way that helps me blank my mind. In what feels like less than a minute, I pass out. I feel like if I keep walking along the train tracks, I'll be able to find my way out of here. I make sure to walk in the middle, using the planks like stepping stones. The steel rails on either side of me feel like some sort of barrier, a protection to whatever it is that's out there. I feel a presence in front of me though, a sort of pressure that builds as I continue to walk. Looking up, I can see that it's coming from that weird grove of trees that bunch up around the train yard. Something's crouched in front of that grove, staring at me from the trees. I keep walking though, because for some reason I don't feel like I have anything to worry about as long as I stay on the tracks. I notice something else behind the hunched figure. A few bulky objects hang from the trees. I know what they are before I can make them out. I keep staring at them as I draw closer, ignoring the thing that's watching me as I do, hearing it breathe as I pass it. Now I can see there are several bodies hanging from the trees. They're of all shapes and species. Some hang by their necks, others by a wrist or ankle. One of them passes me within a few feet, and I notice that it doesn't have legs, both of them cut off at the thigh. It's a wolf, and he dangles by one of the stumps. Blood stains his dusty cream-coloured pants and shirt all the way up to his face. As I pass him, he slowly turns on the rope, as if he's following my progress. I look down at the corpse's face, the mouth hanging open, eyes wide. It's like he wants to tell me something important. I can feel my body again, but it's numb and heavy. Slowly, I open my eyes and see the beige ceiling of Kudzu's trailer. I flick my eyes to the right and I see Kudzu there, but only his back. He seems frozen, like he's in a photo. He's not even breathing. I can't see the window very well from here, but from the small corner I do see eyes. When I wake up, Kudzu's next to me in the bed, his back to me, one of his ears folded under his head. Having been with Leo for a few years, I know that can be pretty painful when you wake up. So I reach out and try to slowly adjust Kudzu's ear from under his head, but he immediately wakes up. He makes a funny snorting sound before suddenly jerking up halfway off the bed, looking back at me. I smile sheepishly. Oh, sorry, I was trying to fix your ear. Kudzu reaches up, poking at the ear. Oh, ow, thanks. I notice on the bedside table that there's a small plate with what looks like a blueberry muffin on it. Kudzu notices and reaches out for it. You want to eat? I ate a couple earlier myself. I didn't realise how hungry I was. He lowers his ears. Still one left though. My stomach has settled for the most part, so I take the plate from him. Thanks. It's still dark outside from what I can see. Did we sleep through the whole day? I realise that I've completely lost track of time. What time is it? Kudzu reaches over to the bedside table, grabbing his phone. 2:30 in the morning. I rub my face. Wow, did we sleep through the whole day or something? No, you were asleep for like 2 hours. Really? It felt like it had been days since what happened at Brian's trailer. Yeah, I found you around midnight. Kudzu turns nimbly on his rear on the bed, facing me with his legs crossed. How are you feeling? I'm okay. Kudzu gives me a long, hard look. Again, he has the expression of wanting to say something, but he's holding back. What is it? Kudzu lets out a breath. Listen, I'm not going to ask what happened with Brian, but if you ever want to talk about it... Talking about Brian is the last thing I want to do, and I can feel the threat of violent shivers coming up my spine just thinking about him. Kudzu reaches out one of his black hands to rub at my shoulder. Awkward and comforting as always. I've been through some stuff myself. Kudzu catches himself. Not saying I know what you went through, but I know how it can feel having something really fucked up happen to you. I don't think I've ever seen Kudzu stumble over his words like this. I mean, I'm not trying to say that this is comparable if he, Kudzu trails off, seemingly stunned by his own lack of delicacy. For the first time since I left that trailer, I feel a little bit like laughing. I reach up to rub Kudzu's own arm, feeling like I need to comfort him now. No, it's fine, man. He didn't do anything like that. At least, not how you think he would. Kudzu watches me. I know he's not going to ask, so I go on. He has a thing for asphyxiation, I guess. Oh, jeez. Kudzu's eyes immediately go to my neck. I'm fine, it was just creepy. Creepy definitely doesn't begin to describe it, but I don't think now's the time to go into details. I look out the window again, and aside from a few orange dots of light from faraway lampposts, it's black. So, can you tell me what's going on now? Kudzu runs a hand through his head fur, sighing heavily and looking out the window with me. You sure you don't want to wait until morning? I really don't think I'm going to be able to fall asleep again, to be honest. Kudzu continues to stare out the window, and that's when I really start to wonder what it was that I missed. So, yesterday, about noon, is when I saw some weird stuff going on. Kudzu looks at me. Your friend, TJ, he came kind of jogging up the road. My mind flashes back to when I saw TJ running past the diner. I hadn't had time to really figure out what it was he was doing before Duke barged in. He said someone was after him and that he needed to leave. He talked to you? Where is he? I feel the fur pricking up all over my body. The thought that TJ might be out there somewhere in the chaos is terrifying. How could someone like him survive that? I'm certainly doing a terrible job myself. I don't know. He asked me if I had a car, but I don't, so he kept on up the road. Up the road? There's nothing past Kudzu's trailer aside from Cole's house, and that's over a mile away. But Cole doesn't have a car anymore. Maybe he's just staying with the Ram? I hope that's the case. After he left though is when things really started going crazy. Kudzu shakes his head. You know Dale? Yeah. Dale is the only otter in town now that my family's left. He was walking up the road with a fucking shotgun, pointing it around and stuff. Is that out of the ordinary for Dale? I want to get back onto the topic of TJ. If he went up the road, away from the town, we could still find him. But he was bleeding, had cuts on his leg, and his jeans were all ripped up. Oh. But he knocked on my door. I didn't open it, but he yelled through it, saying that there was a meeting in the centre of town. What kind of meeting? A fucked up one, apparently. Anyway, I went over to Leo's house to see if he was home, and then I saw the window. Kudzu rubs the back of his neck, his ears lowering. Obviously I knew some bad shit had happened, but I had no way of knowing what. Anyway, I went to the town centre, hoping I'd see you two there, but just getting there was crazy. Kudzu looks back at me. Jeremy's house was burning, and Janice's house looked like it had been broken into too. Jeremy's house? That was Jenna's house. I didn't run into anyone until I got to the townhouse. This whole thing is just getting bigger and bigger. While I've been in Brian's trailer, everything had been falling apart outside. But why? What's going on? Kudzu shakes his head. I still don't know that, even after they told me. Who? The older guys, Mark and the mayor, said something about this having happened before, that it was our turn or something. Our turn? What does that mean? Kudzu shakes his head again. I don't know. They just said it happened to their grandparents, and that we had to be ready. Ready? Did they tell us what to do? They said to pray. Is that all they told you? Basically, acted like there was nothing we can do about it, and, Kudzu pauses. What? They also said we can't leave, and showed us a body. Kudzu stops talking. I stare. Like a dead body? Kudzu swallows and nods. What's going on? I feel my voice rise in pitch, and Kudzu puts up his hands as if trying to quiet me down. I don't know, but there were weird cuts on the body. They said we can't leave because something out there will stop us if we try to leave the town. Okay, so if you've seen my earlier recordings and you've checked out Flynn's route in particular, you get to see this meeting as it goes down. I stare at Kudzu, like a serial killer or something. They wouldn't say. They acted like it's a monster. Well, then they're lying, right? Kudzu's quiet for a moment and shakes his head. After everything I've seen, I just don't know. Well, I think, trying to figure out what the hell we're gonna do. Well, we need to find Leo at least. Kudzu nods, like he's already thought about that. Then maybe get my car and at least try to leave. Kudzu doesn't say anything to that. But if we can't leave, for whatever reason, then we at least have to find the rest of my friends. I look at Kudzu. Well, I do. I don't know what you're gonna be. Kudzu gives me a wry smile. Well, I don't have anywhere else to go, aside from out of here. Besides, I owe it to Leo to get him out. I feel a warm rush of relief flow over me, knowing that Kudzu will be here with me. I don't think I'd be able to do any of this alone. So, we're gonna get Leo? Kudzu nods. Well, I am at least. You should really stay here. Get some more rest after what you went through. Of course I'd rather stay here and hide until Kudzu comes back, but Leo tried to save me back at the diner, risked his life to do it. After everything Leo's done for me, I owe him too. No, I'm gonna go with you. Kudzu shakes his head. I don't think so. It'll make things easier if it's just me. Kudzu shifts, looking toward the kitchen. Besides, I'll have Leo's gun with me, in case something goes wrong. He was my boyfriend. I can't just sit here while you save him. Kudzu pauses. Listen, I know Leo, and he would never want me to bring you into something like this. Yeah, well, Leo not wanting me to do something never stopped me before. Getting defiant like this is making me feel better. It gives me purpose again. Kudzu looks like he's about to shake his head again, but I continue. Besides, it might help things. One of us could go in while the other distracts Duke or something. Kudzu looks unsure, so I press my advantage. And if something goes wrong, one of us would be there to help the other. Kudzu pulls at one of his whiskers. Maybe, if it's just Duke there. He might not even be there. He might be at Brian's trailer or somewhere else around town. Kudzu sighs, and then looks me right in the eyes. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm not, but I nod anyway. Oh god, here we go. What's this? Is this Sunday? We've made it to Sunday. It's the last day of the week. We'll go for a little bit more. I'm dreading this. We tried to keep off the road, in the brush on our way to Duke's house. Despite our situation, the biggest thing on my mind right now is ticks. Funny how the mind works. The faint shouts and yells coming from the town are more frequent now. Another pop comes from that direction. It reminds me of the gun Kudzu has tucked into his waistband. He's never used one before, and it took us a solid couple of minutes to decide if he should even stick it there. Another pop. I can't help but think that that's where the motel is, where Jenna might be. Here though, not so much is out of place, aside from the smell of smoke on the breeze. That is, until we come across a body hanging from a tree, about 100 yards from Duke's house. I'm the first to notice it. When I do, I gasp and instinctively reach for Kudzu. He catches my hand and then looks up as he holds on to me. It's high up, maybe 50 feet, but from the markings on the fur, I think it's a fox. Oh, Jesus. Kudzu whispers next to me as I look away, feeling my stomach turn again. What the hell? How did he get up there? I look back and I see that he's hanging by his wrist. I don't think he could have done that to himself. Yeah. We both stare up at him for a little while longer, long enough to notice the long vertical slashes down his back. Those are the same cuts I saw on that other guy. Kudzu whispers distractedly. But who put him up there? Kudzu's silent, and I keep staring up at the guy, the first dead guy that I've ever seen. Suddenly, all of my motivation to get Leo starts to evaporate. Kudzu rests a hand on my shoulder and I jump. Oh, sorry. Kudzu pats me. You alright? I'll take you back, okay? That sounded like the best idea in the world right now, but I hesitate. When I think of Leo, I imagine him in the same situation as I was with Brian. Duke didn't seem as fucked up, but I have no idea what he's capable of. That thought makes it feel as if my heart is dropping through the ground, so I grit my teeth and shake my head. No, I'm okay. Kudzu looks at me closely and nods. Okay, let's move back toward the road though. I don't think anyone is around right now anyway. I want to move toward the road too, mainly because I'm actually starting to worry that moving further away from the town is really dangerous. Duke's house is dark as we approach it. As we get closer though, I see flashes of light from the window well. We both crouch next to the house, behind a small cluster of sagebrush. Okay, so all I can really think to do is knock on the door and see if he's there. I swallow. You'd stay hiding, of course. If he does come out, I don't know, I might try to put him down right there. Then I'd come out and help. Kudzu lets out a low chuckle. Yeah, but again, I'm not sure if that's what I'll do. We might be able to talk him out of this. Yeah. I don't have much faith in that plan. But if he isn't there, well, we'll probably go in and find Leo, alright? Okay. My heart rate picks up as I realise how close we are to making this happen. I'm starting to have second thoughts. Maybe we should have at least looked for the sheriff? Maybe we should have gone straight to the motel. Alright. I can tell Kudzu's nervous too, as he wipes his hand on his tank top before standing up slowly. Just watch from here. If he comes out with his gun though, I'm not going to try anything. He hesitates. And if I get shot or something, don't help. Just run back to my house and start looking for your other friends, I guess. Now I'm really starting to feel unprepared for all of this. Everything is moving way too fast. There isn't really any time though. We have to save Leo as soon as possible. There's no telling what Duke might be doing with him. As Kudzu starts to move away, I get the urge to hug him. He's done so much for me already, saving me and now trying to save Leo. But by now, he's already halfway across the yard to the house. I hold my breath and watch as Kudzu's dark form melds in with the blackness of the house. It's like he's being swallowed up by it in a way. After a few moments, I hear him knock on the door. I listen, trying to breathe through my mouth instead of my whistling nose so I can hear better what's going on. Kudzu knocks again, much more loudly. Hey, it's Kud. I need some help. I look up and down the road, worried someone's going to hear his shouting. There's a slight rustling behind me, and I look back, eyes wide. I don't see anything at first, but then I feel like there's a shape behind another grove of sagebrush, about 20 feet back. Something crouched, the moonlight defending its shape through the brush. I squint, completely stopping my breathing. It looks like it has a tail, a really thick one, like an otter. Was it Dale? I can't even tell if it's really a person, though. Chase! Kudzu whisper shouts, and I jump before stumbling to my feet. The shape behind me doesn't move at all, as I try to reassure myself that it's probably a rock. I jog over to Kudzu as he tries the door, trying not to think too much about what I just saw. It's locked. He looks around for a while, and then starts moving down the side of the house. Look for a window. Are we going to break one? Maybe. Should only take us a few minutes to sweep the house and then get the head out. We quickly spot a window in the back of the house. Kudzu looks in and bites his lip. I'm just worried that Duke might still be in there with a gun or something. He bends over, picking up a sizable rock. Well, not much choice. If I say run, run. Got it? I nod, and Kudzu lifts the rock above his head before smashing it through the window. The sound is probably the loudest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. I cover my own ears, like that's going to lessen the sound. Kudzu jumps to the side, away from the window, reaching back to hold on to me. The fur on Kudzu's body frizzes up, and I see his ears perked up as far as they can go. Once the final tinkling of the glass subsides, we both listen. My ears are ringing, but the only other sound I can hear are the chirping of crickets. Finally, Kudzu lets out a soft breath. Alright, let's go. I help him push out a few more shards of glass. Once that's done, the raccoon hoists himself inside, very carefully manoeuvring around the sharp broken edges. He turns and reaches out to me, helping me through in the same fashion. Even though I'm trying to be careful, when I ring my arm in, it drags along a jagged edge of glass sticking out from the side. I grimace, the fiery pain taking a moment to really set in. Shit, you okay? He grabs my wrist so he can put up my arm to examine it by moonlight and sucks in a breath. Ah, fuck. You might need stitches for that. And that's when I see the blood starting to ooze up from the fur. It's only about an inch long, but the amount of blood coming out is surprising. Damn it. I'll take care of it after we find Leo. I pull my arm away, despite Kudzu still trying to take a look at it. Okay, I'll see if we can't find something to wrap it up in. Kudzu starts fumbling along the wall and finds a light switch. I'm surprised to see a fairly quaint and tidy home. Unlike Kudzu's trailer though, there's barely anything in it. There's a single sofa and a very old-fashioned TV in what I presume is the living room. There's a fireplace and a few dirty-looking chairs on the other end of the room. In front of us is a long hallway with a few doors on both sides. Okay, check every room and door. It's not a very big house. Kudzu sets off down the hall. Look for stairs. I feel like he'd be in the basement. As Kudzu goes into a room to the left, I peer into the one on the right. It looks like a bedroom, with a single twin in the middle of the room. I take a few steps in, looking around and not seeing anything else. When I turn back around, I do see some picture frames hung up on the wall. It seems kinda odd for someone like Duke to have those up. In the pictures, I see a much younger Duke, or at least a pre-meth Duke. Next to him is a female weasel, her smile small compared to Duke's tooth-bearing grin. She's in the 3 other pictures next to that one too. Weird. I wouldn't have thought anyone would want to be with Duke, especially someone as pretty as that weasel. I move on to the next room, and this one is completely empty and painted white. The next door down is the last one on the right side of the hall. This is the only door that's closed, and like the last room's walls, it's painted white. It's taller, and seems to be a bit thicker than the other doors. And when I try the knob, it's locked. Kudzu. I whisper, and Kudzu pokes his head out from the door just behind me. What's up? I point at the door in front of me. This one's locked. Kudzu stands in front of the door and presses his ear to it. I see his hand hover in front of the crack between the door and the frame, and then he reaches out to my hand and pulls it up to the same spot. He looks at me. Do you feel that? I'm about to say no, but that's when there's a noticeably cooler draft coming from within. It's kinda cold. Basement. I bet my ass that Leo's down there. I swallow. Should he try to break down the door or something? I don't. Kudzu's ears suddenly perk up straight and his eyes widen. My fur bristles out. What? That's when I hear it. The crunching of gravel. Kudzu grabs my arms and starts pushing me back down the hall toward the back of the room with the broken window. At that moment, I hear the knob turn and suddenly my path changes direction as Kudzu steers me into the room on our left. It's one of the rooms I hadn't looked into myself, and I see that it's a storage room. Boxes are everywhere, and so is a bunch of junk. I guess that explains why all the other rooms are so spotless, and that he's not using his basement for storage. Kudzu looks around desperately for a moment, and then pulls me behind a mound of boxes, just as I hear the door swinging open. The problem ain't that he got away. Duke is practically screeching when he comes inside, as if he'd been waiting to be indoors before he yelled. Underneath Duke's pattering feet on the wooden floor, I hear 2 loud thumps, and I know immediately who's with him. My blood runs cold, and my breathing seems to stop, worried that they'll be able to hear even that. If he's behind all this, he's going to make things so much worse. Huh. I hear a non-committal grunt from the bear, and I shudder at the sound of his voice again. I feel a light touch on my back as Kudzu rests his hand there, trying to comfort me. What do you mean, huh? You like the dreams you're having right now? Because trust me, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. I hear a smacking sound, which I imagine is Duke's tiny hand trying to slap Brian in the face. What the fuck you staring at? Duke's grating, nasally voice echoes around the carpetless house. Your window. There's a moment of silence as I hear some shifting around, and then suddenly I hear Duke's footsteps bustle down the hall. I duck more deeply behind the boxes as he passes the doorway to our room. Fuck, is someone fucking in here? Brian's lumbered down the hall, basically standing right in front of our room. I hear 2 more thumps and a bunch of rustling as Duke ineffectively beats at the bear's bulk. Fucking idiot, they broke in! I hear a jingling of keys as Duke continues to shout. Check every fucking room. I'll bet they broke through the basement window too. Fuck! Now that he says it, breaking through the basement window might have been a better idea. Looking between the crack in the boxes, I get a flash of the weasel walking past the door again. He's holding something long and shiny. I shrink back against the boxes, wondering how in the world I got here. As I stare at the ground, I also wonder if I'm about to have a heart attack. I focus on watching the blood seep from my arm, pooling on the wooden floor next to me. I hear a key go into the lock and the doorknob turn. I swear to God, if that wolf ain't down there, I'll blow your goddamn face off. Duke's voice fades away, accompanied by receding footsteps down the stairs. The heavy footfalls of Brian start to move around slowly toward the other end of the hall. Kudzu moves his hand up to my shoulder. I look at him, and he holds his finger up to his lips, and then points in the direction of the broken window. I don't want to move at all. In fact, I'd rather sit here and just disappear into the floor. Somehow, though, I'm able to force myself up to my feet as Kudzu tucks me up. We move very slowly to the doorway, and there Kudzu holds up a hand, making me pause. I watch his ears perk, flicking in the direction of Brian. My hearing probably isn't nearly as good as his, but I'm still able to pick up the bear's heavy, laboured breathing. I hear some shuffling, and then more heavy footsteps. Kudzu freezes as we both listen to the bear move back into the hallway, and then his footsteps fade away. I imagine he's moved into another room, and that's when Kudzu finally peers around the corner. I hold my breath, but Kudzu reaches back and grabs my wrist, putting me out into the hallway. It's empty, and as quietly and quickly as we can, we move to the end of the hall to stand next to the broken window. Kudzu sticks one leg out the window before balancing his entire weight on both of his hands that are resting on the bottom ledge. Like a gymnast, he moves his other leg and quietly drops to the ground outside, his head narrowly missing the top ledge. I don't know if it's because he's a raccoon or an actual gymnast, but there's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to do that. Kudzu's already reaching for me though, his eyes wide with frantic worry. I can hear shuffling sounds behind me again, coming from one of the rooms. Kudzu reaches out toward me, then suddenly waves his hand wildly in the direction of the room right next to me. Heart pounding, I almost stumble through the doorway into the room. This one has a few chairs stacked up against the side of the wall and what looks like a closet door. Brian's footsteps thump down the hall again, and I almost gasp as I get a glimpse of his massive shadow through the doorway. But then it disappears as I hear his footsteps move into the room right next to me. From just inside the room I see Kudzu slowly pop back up in front of the window and then motion frantically toward himself. My legs are like jelly though, and I hesitate. Then there's a raspy dragging sound in the room next to me that almost makes me jump. It's the sound of a cardboard box being slid across the floor. I hear Brian mumbling. Definitely not paint. I force my numbed feet to stumble out into the hallway and toward the window. Kudzu reaches for me, his eyes desperate, but then I hear the shuffling behind me again. Why is he moving so fast now? Automatically I step back into the room, while Kudzu continues to beckon to himself. Brian's lumbering footsteps move down the hallway, slowly in my direction. Kudzu's ducked back down again and out of sight. I'm alone and trapped. I remember the closet at the last minute and lunge toward it, not having enough time to worry about the sound I make. Somehow, the closet door glides open with hardly a sound, as if the hinge had been recently greased. I step inside and then swing the door shut, trying not to let it snap closed. At that moment, Brian's lumbering gait enters the room. I shrink back against the wall, holding my hands to my mouth, trying not to breathe. My heart beats so loud it's the only thing I can hear as it pounds in my ears. I hear coughing and grunting coming from behind the door, and then it goes quiet. I wait, unsure of whether the bear is left or not. Slowly, I walk up to the door, pressing the side of my head gently against it. I listen, trying to see if I can hear anything. I swallow and then reach up to rest my hand on the doorknob. I think about making a run for it, maybe trying to dive through the window. I might get hurt, but if I'm able to get away... I wait for what feels like 2 or maybe 3 minutes. It's complete silence on the other side. I wait even longer, to the point where I'm sure there's no way someone like Brian could keep that quiet for long. So, slowly, as slowly as I can, I push the door open. And it immediately comes into contact with something on the other side before it's even a foot open. It's soft, whatever it is, and the door almost bounces back from it. I wait for a moment then, as I'm starting to realise what just happened. A massive bear paw reaches around the edges of the door. In the next half second, the door is ripped open and I find myself facing Brian. A weird numbing feeling spreads down from my crotch and into my legs, and I sag in front of the bear. My mind refuses to think, to even process what my eyes are seeing. What it does process is pure terror. Brian seems to have trouble understanding what he's seeing as well. He stares at me for a few seconds, his eyes practically crossing as he focuses on me. And then he grins. "Hey, you?" I can't respond. Instead, I press back into the closet, flattening myself against the wall as he reaches out to me. Still, there isn't much I can do as he grabs the front of my shirt, yanks me out of the closet. He starts to pull me toward the doorway as I stumble into the hall, and I'm finally able to start trying to move again. Seeing the window, I lunge toward it, but Brian's grip is too strong. I hear a few popping sounds as some threads in my shirt give out, and Brian yanks me back violently. Everything goes black as something massive knocks up against the side of my face, and the next thing I know, I'm thrown down the hall flat on my back. I'm staring up at the ceiling, watching it slide sideways above me, like it's painted into a treadmill. My right foot is hiked up into the air, and I realise that Brian's dragging me along the floor now, back toward the end of the hall. The fur on my back glides easily along the hardwood, my shirt scrunching up to my chest. Brian stops as he reaches the white door, pushing it open. Dizzily, I look up at the window, wondering if Kudzu is there, and if he can see me. I reach toward it, but that's when I'm being dragged again, and I land painfully on the first step. I gasp and turn sideways so that as Brian drags me clumsily down the rest of the steps, my spine isn't taking the rest of the corners. It's dark, and the air turns cool and musty. We finally reach the bottom of the steps, pain pulsing at various points in my body from the rough handling. Brian starts dragging me again, and I finally realise that he's going to have me trapped again. He will do whatever his sick mind thinks up, and there won't be anybody there to stop him. No. I moan and try to grab something, anything to stop me from being pulled deeper into the basement. My hand manages to latch onto a wooden beam next to the stairs. Brian grunts as my body is snapped into full extension as we're brought to a halt. Come on, let's go. I keep clinging to the beam, imagining that at any moment Kudzu's going to come running down the stairs, gun in hand. That comes to an end as Brian kicks me in the chest and I let it go with a wheeze. You know you're the one making this hard on yourself. He starts dragging me again as I curl up and cradle my chest, vaguely hoping that he'd given me a heart attack and I'd be free from all of this. I swear to God, if you're lying to me, Leo, I'm going to paint the ceiling with your fucking brains. Why am I still here if someone came in to save me then? The sound of Leo's voice has me snapping my eyes open again. While it isn't quite as heartening as Kudzu barging in with a weapon, it's definitely relieving to hear his voice again. I'm dragged through another doorway into a brightly lit room, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead. As I come to a stop on the cement floor, the room goes quiet and I squint against the sudden light. The walls on all sides are covered in shelves that are filled with silver tins and soup cans. A storage room of some kind. Duke is standing in the middle of the room next to a metal chair, staring at me. In that chair is Leo. His arms are down at his sides, and I can see that they're both handcuffed to the sides of the chair. His feet are similarly strapped to the chair's legs. His face is one of shock as he also stares at me, open-mouthed. I stare back, even feeling weirdly self-conscious as everyone watches me. Duke breaks the silence. I knew it. Duke is snarling, but it's not at me. Instead he's looking at Brian, his lips drawn back as he growls. This is what fucking happens. Brian's scratching his head. What happens? Duke kicks at the air with the foot before stamping down on the hard cement that makes up the floor of the room. Leo wasn't supposed to know that he got away. Well, I caught him, so what's the difference? Duke lunges at Brian, swinging his arms a few times to beat his fists uselessly against the bear's bulk. Brian flinches back anyway, letting go of my foot. Leo's still staring down at me, mouth slightly less open, and I have no idea what's going on in his mind right now. I suddenly realised how stupid I was to come here with Kudzu. Sure, saving Leo as soon as possible was important, but why had I thought that we could have done it alone? I should be in my car right now, halfway to Peyton, 20 minutes away from the cops. Instead, I'm in Duke's basement, about to be murdered. I slowly sit up, just as Duke seems to finish his beating at Brian. And gasping, he turns to me. Fuck, well, if you're here, I guess we'll just have to make use of you. He waves his hand loosely between me and Brian. Pick him up. Wait a second, just shut up. Brian picks me up roughly, almost encircled my chest with his hands alone as he pins my arms to my sides. He holds me in front of Leo, and Duke stands to the side between us. It's only now that I notice the puffiness in Leo's left eye, some crusted blood near his brow, with some more coming from his lower lip. It's not terrible, but it's clear that he's been hit a few times. As I watch him, I can see the fear in his eyes reflected back at me. That alone scares me more than the situation we're in. Not smirking anymore, are you? Duke bares his teeth in Leo's direction. Been trying to wipe it off your face this whole time, and turns out this is all I needed to do it. Duke gestures at me. You little fuck otter, huh? Leo closes his eyes and shakes his head. Why are you here? He mumbles it, almost to himself. Duke leans closer to the wolf. Why didn't you run if you got away? Leo opens his eyes, and he's looking straight at me. I don't know if he expects me to answer, but the look of defeat on his face makes me feel like I have to. We wanted to save you? We didn't know where you were, or what was happening. Duke suddenly leans away from Leo toward me, his eyes narrowed. We? Who's we? I feel my stomach drop as I realise what I've just done. I mean all of us. I saw some of my friends out there before I come here, but I'm alone. Duke studies me closely. Was there anybody else up there, Brian? Brian's sulking behind me, letting go of my shoulder occasionally to rub at his chin. Didn't see nobody except the otter. Duke looks up at the ceiling, like he's listening for footsteps or something. Duke snaps his attention back to Leo, and I notice his face is practically dancing with twitches and tics. This is crazy. Leo enunciates each word through gritted teeth, his muzzle lowered so that he's looking up at Duke eye to eye. Look at this. Look at everything you've done. Makes no sense. Duke lets out a high-pitched laugh. Crazy? You know what's crazy? Duke gestures at me again. Ask him what he saw out there. Duke turns to face me, swinging his hand from me to Leo. Go on, tell him. He doesn't believe me. The corner of Duke's eye seems to have a mind of its own, like there's some kind of living creature under the surface writhing around. Was it a little crazy? I stare at Duke entranced until Brian gives me a quick jerk. I saw a body. There were gunshots. Duke giggles. And that ain't the half of it. Houses afire, people eating each other. You think I'm crazy for shooting Janice, but if you knew... But how the hell are we supposed to know why that is? Leo leans forward as far as his bonds let him, eyes wide, almost pleading with Duke. This started when you got here. Duke lowers his voice dangerously, leaning back toward Leo, their noses almost touching. That doesn't mean shit. Leo speaks haltingly back at the weasel. Does this? Duke suddenly pulls the gun from his waistband out of his pants and points it straight at my face. I'm barely able to comprehend it before Brian jumps to the side with me out of the way of the gun. Fucking Christ, Duke, don't point that thing at me. Leo almost stands up on his toes with the chair still attached to his body, fur bristled out all over his body. Duke's lowered the gun though, still watching Leo. Leo slumps back in the chair, trembling. Stop it, Duke, I don't know anything. Duke stares for a moment at the wolf, frowning. And then he looks down at his gun, as if contemplating something. Slowly, he looks at me, and then points the gun at Leo's head. My hurt jumps into my throat, and Brian has to hold on to me as I try to hold out my hands. Wait, what are you doing? Maybe it is just you, Otter. What? It's you I was seeing before you got here, and it was you I saw sneaking round at night. The hell are you talking about? I feel myself start to panic as I see Duke's finger tighten up around the trigger. I don't know what's happening. Leo's doing his best to keep his head out of the line of fire, leading his head as far to the side as he can. Duke doesn't seem to be paying attention to him though, instead keeping his eyes on me. Just explain to me why you think it's me. Maybe I can help. That seems to get some sort of reaction out of Duke as he lowers his gun, just a bit. The problem now is that he's pointing it at Leo's chest, and there's no way he can dodge that. Duke's studying me closely, as if trying to figure out what to say. You know this has happened before. My mind races. But the mass hysteria thing, like 100 years ago? Yeah, that's right. See, how do you know that? He looks closely at me, but I'm relieved as he finally takes his gun away from Leo to be pointing at the ground. I did some research before coming here. I'm doing a news story on Echo for school. Duke is still eyeing me suspiciously. So you know about the murder? I tried to think back to my research about what exactly happened. It was a while ago now, and I'd planned to fill in the gaps when I got back to Pueblo. Kind of. Happened in the mine. Yeah, it did. And then people went nuts. I wait, but Duke doesn't go on, filling the air with awkward silence. I can see Leo's head looking back and forth, probably trying to come up with a way to get out of this. I hope he's figuring something out, because I've got no idea how we're going to do that. But do you know why? I'm trying to sift through Duke's psyche, trying to figure out why he thinks this might be related to Leo and I. Duke's breathing has levelled off, and with his calmness, there's a feeling that we've managed to ride out the storm. My grandpappy lived through it all and stayed in the town after. Oh? I notice Leo's not looking around anymore. Instead, his eyes are trained on the door behind me and slightly to my right. I want to look back, but Duke seems distracted right now, so I try to keep him engaged. Yeah, it happened weeks after the body was found, sort of built up, till all hell broke loose. Leo nods his head slightly, eyes still on the door, and my heart leaps to my chest as I realise what might be happening. Do you know why that was? Duke shakes his head. There's something bad in this town. The earth's bad, the air's bad. Everything's tainted. So, you think something's in the air, or the water or something? I lean a bit to the left, to try to keep Duke's eyes on me, away from Leo or the door. I don't know about that, but my grandpappy thought that because they didn't catch the murderer, it planted some seeds in the bad dirt. Duke looks at the ceiling. And grew something terrible. Wasn't until they killed the guy that did it that it stopped. It's news to me. I didn't read anywhere that the murderer had been caught. Duke looks back down at me. So, I don't know what it is, if it's murder, or guilt, or not catching someone that did wrong. I hear the softest sound of a footpad against the floor behind me, and pray that none of the others did. But it started when you got here, so you gotta forgive me for wondering if one of you did something bad. Duke starts to raise the gun again, and brought that guilt back to this poisoned land to grow the seeds again. Duke doesn't sound like himself at all, not even his recently crazed self. Still, though I don't want to admit it, I start to have an idea of what Duke might be getting at, how this fits into our history. What was that kid's name a while back that died in the lake? He wasn't murdered. Are you sure about that? Yes, but I'm not, am I? I swallow hard, aware that some pieces don't fit, despite how disturbing the implications are. But that was years ago. Why didn't it start then? Why now? Duke shrugs. Maybe he wasn't guilty till now. Maybe kids don't understand what they've done. Maybe it's 'cause you left, and it made it angry. But he wasn't murdered. Did you see it happen? No, but the person that did wouldn't ever do that. So, am I talking to the wrong guy right now? Who was it? I look over at Leo again, swallowing hard. Who was it? Duke starts to raise the gun again, and what happens over the course of the next minute is too fast for me to comprehend until it's over. Leo explodes out from his sitting position, face twisted with rage as he bares his teeth in a full-on wolf snarl. Though his feet are handcuffed to the legs of the chair, he's still able to lunge off the ground with his feet. He launches himself at Duke, slamming into the weasel with a painful crunch of flesh on flesh and metal on concrete. I gasp and watch as Leo starts ripping into Duke with his teeth. Duke screams and flails his arms around, apparently forgetting his weapon as it flies from his fingers. The gun slides across the ground, tapped gently against the wall, just 5 feet from me. Brian keeps a tight grip on me though, but that's when I hear a clicking sound behind me. Brian does too, and he turns sideways, allowing me to see the source as well. And there stands Kudzu, both hands on Leo's handgun, and he points it up at Brian's head. It clicks uselessly though, and Kudzu's face is a mixed mask of terror, desperation, and confusion. The safety! Leo's still struggling on the ground with a screaming Duke, lifting his mouth from the weasel's arm to shout at Kudzu. Kudzu's eyes snap to the gun in his hand, but Brian's already moving. He kicks at Kudzu's hand and it connects violently, sending the gun flying into the air to clap against the ceiling. Brian lets go of me at that point, reaching out to catch the gun. Help Kudzu or go for Duke's gun? Oh no! We are in the middle of a fight and I don't know what to do. But yeah, it's cliffhanger time. This is Usho signing off, and hopefully I'll see you next time.